KSI versus Joe Fournier looking like the next big Misfits event. This is going to be KSI's next fight in his journey to eventually fight Jake Paul. Let's get into the pros and cons of each fighter, how they match up against each other, and then eventually my prediction of this fight. Let's get straight into it. If you do enjoy this video, make sure to smash the like button down below. Make sure to subscribe if you do like any sort of sporting or gym content. Make sure to pop on that notification bell so you always know when I upload. Let's get straight into it. I'm going to start off with Joe Fournier. I don't actually know much about Joe Fournier other than the fact he fought David Haye and lost, but I'm going to go into his pros and cons right now. The one thing I noticed when I was researching Joe's fights, he has a very snappy jab. Even though he might be in his 40s, I think he is, he has a decent enough jab. It's nice and professional. He uses body feints well to open up his opponent, which can then lead to a snappy jab. He has decent enough power. It's not like, oh my god, he is like insane power, but it's decent. He knows when to capitalize on his opponent when they are indeed hurt. So it's always nice to, have a decent challenge for KSI if he does tag JJ, that he knows he can go for the kill. He has the ability to fight in both southpaw and orthodox. In one of these fights, you'll see in the background here, as you can see, he's changing stances to confuse his opponent, which is very nice. It's always nice to see, a fighter do this in order to test his opponent, maybe confuse them, or just completely, wobble their heads and not know what to do with their game plan. Now, unfortunately, that's kind of where my pros end with Joe Fournier. He's decent, but he isn't great. So let's get into his cons. Now, there's one thing at Joe. He's an extremely slow fighter. He really just kind of waits off fights on the outside until he eventually tags his opponent. He is really, really slow, which is definitely going to play in KSI's favor. He's very slow, and with KSI's last fight against Temper, the way he's constantly bouncing around, putting on the pressure, like we've seen in multiple of his last fights, this will be a huge problem for Fournier. Whenever Joe Fournier throws, he leaves himself wide open. Whether it be he extends his right arm too much to leave his liver open for a body shot, or his left arm, when he's throwing a jab, he doesn't protect this other side of his head, which could easily be slipped and countered with a hook. It's really bad for Joe Fournier, especially against someone like KSI, who obviously hasn't been totally tested in the last few fights. Obviously, this is his test fight. We know with the training KSI's had over the last few years, he should know how to slip a jab and throw a hook and counter. So this could be a real big problem for Joe if KSI does have him on the end of that right hand. He has a really weird blocking technique as well. It's almost like he's playing peekaboo with his opponent, which can lead him open to a lot of jabs. The thing I can think about with this with KSI is Joe Weller. When KSI fought Joe Weller years ago, Joe Weller had the exact same boxing and blocking stance with the whole peekaboo, arms right beside his head, leading him open for a jab, which can then open him up for a hook. It's really bad in my opinion, and KSI will 100% capitalize on that. Another thing is when I was looking for knockouts or even training videos of Fournier, because you literally cannot find any videos of his fights other than the one he had on Showtime. I don't know who that was against, on the other one he fought against David Haye, but he keeps posting fake knockouts. Like, you can see the knockouts here. Well, knockouts, you can see them here. Let me know in the comments whether you think these are fake or not, because these falls, they look like Looney Tune falls, if you ask me. So yeah, that's not a good look, especially the way they're like, it's just weird. It doesn't look good, especially when you're a so-called professional boxer. It doesn't look great. Another thing is he is obviously in his 40s, so he may struggle to see out the later rounds, especially with the pressure KSI will put onto Fournier here. It could be lights out early for Fournier, especially if he can't keep up with the pace of JJ. And now we're going to go on to the favourite of the fight, in my opinion, KSI. So let's get straight into his pros and cons. Now, obviously, we've seen he has insane knockout power. We all know KSI hits extremely hard. Like we can see it in the Temper knockout. It's a very nice knockout, very Michael Von Page like. So the way he's kind of bouncing, obviously he has a low guard, but against Temper, he's not that great, so he probably should be winning in the early rounds anyways. Against Swarms, we all expect him to win that fight, let's be honest. And in Pineda, we saw the power of KSI there. Obviously, Pineda isn't great or wasn't great in that fight, but we still saw a very, very, very dangerous KSI. He does indeed have very good footwork, in my opinion, especially with the Temper fight, with the constant bouncing on the toes. Yes, it can leave you open with that sort of like bouncing on the toes, hands down. However, it is really good footwork, the way he's able to slip a few shots and then throw in counters, so that can be really handy, especially against Fournier, who isn't great at blocking or very great at defense. Another thing we all know, KSI is really good at putting fighters under pressure. When he knows a person is hurt, he knows when to go in for the kill. You can see it in the clinches against Temper and just the whole fight against Pineda, pretty much. And also in the later rounds against Swarms. And one thing I want to go over with JJ, if he does continue to go with that stance he had with Temper's fight, the low guard is just something I don't want him doing, especially if he wants to eventually fight Jake Paul, which obviously will be the case. If he has a low guard against Jake, it's game over early night. Jake will catch him. So ideally, I want to see him in a regular stance. High, decent defense. Ideally, sort of like the Mayweather stance. That he used to have against Joe Weller. Obviously, that's ages and ages ago, so he would have improved. But that whole arms down, I don't know what it is. It can leave him very much open. We haven't really seen him get hit properly in the chin or in the temple, so I ideally don't want him with the low guard in this fight, especially against Joe Fournier, who, he's a professional boxer. He could definitely punish him. Another thing is, JJ, he kind of struggles on the back foot. You can see against Temper. Temper does catch him with some nice shots. It's not like Temper was a punching bag. Well, kinda. But he wasn't completely just letting KSI hit him. He was catching KSI that with shots KSI probably shouldn't have been getting caught with, in my opinion. So he definitely has to improve with the sort of head movement and blocking, and just in general, when KSI wants to go forward, he has to be wary of shots that are coming in. That's why I think Sol Papi will be a huge problem for him. And also, he does have less experience than Fournier. Obviously, Fournier is 9-1, KSI is 6-0-1. So it's not too much of a difference in experience, but obviously Fournier would have been training his whole life because he's a professional boxer, so he would have been training ever since he was younger. And he also fought David Haye, and David Haye is not an easy fighter to fight either. But that is my prediction on how this fight honestly will go. Let me know in the comments below what you think will happen, whether it'll go to distance, whether it'll be a knockout, who knows. Let me know in the comments below what you think will happen. Leave a like on this video if you did enjoy. Make sure to smash that subscribe button as well if you do like sporting, gym, or boxing content. We have a lot of it here. I really do appreciate y'all tuning in for this video. Have an amazing day, guys. Peace.